Will he think? Will he think?
Düşünecek mi?
We should write poetry now. We should write poetry now.
Hemen şiir yazmalıyız.
3 weeks later becomes a midwife. 3 weeks later becomes a midwife.
3 hafta sonra ebe olur.
Can't we order? Can't we order?
Emir veremez miyiz?
Does it mean noon? Does it mark noon?
Öğle vakti mi işaretliyor?
We can be agents 4 nights ago. You can have agent 4 evenings ago.
4 akşam önce ajanınız olabilir.
After 5 years we have to share. After 5 years we have to share.
5 yıl sonra paylaşmalıyız.
You will be contacted every day. You will be in contact every day.
Her gün iletişim geçeceksiniz.
It may take 2 weeks. It may take 2 weeks.
2 hafta devam edebilir.
Rarely did he become an economist. Rarely did he become an economist.
Nadiren ekonomist olmadı.
They should not be limited to weekly. They should not be limited to weekly.
Haftalık olarak sınırlamamalıdırlar.
Wouldn't the banker be 10 years? Isn't the banker 10 years old?
Bankacı 10 yıl olmaz mı?
Can we suggest? Can we suggest?
Önerebilir miyiz?
Don't you have to give permission? Don't you have to give permission?
İzin vermen gerekmiyor mu?
Congressman could be 2 more mornings later. Congressman 2 more mornings can be passed.
Kongre üyesi 2 sabah daha geçilebilir.
Can we imply 5 centuries ahead? Can we imply 5 centuries ahead?
5 asır sonrasını ima edebilir miyiz?
Later that morning, cameraman 2. Later that morning, cameraman 2.
O sabah daha sonra kameraman 2.
Don't you think? Doesn't he think?
Zannetmiyor mu?
Will write. Will write.
Yazacak.
Don't you wash dishes every year? You're no dishwashing act every year?
Her yıl bulaşık yıkamaz hareketiniz.
Is your grandson a judge? Is your grandson a judge?
Torunuz yargıç mı?
Is our brother a neurologist? Is our brother a neurologist?
Kardeşimiz nörolog mu?
Can he arrest every day? Can I arrest every day?
Her gün tutuklayabilir miyim?
Could be an inventor. Could be an inventor.
Mucit olabilir.
Did I lie? Did I lie?
Yalan mı söyledim?
Shall we talk in 2 days? Shall we talk in 2 days?
2 gün sonra mı danışalım?
They don't get old often. They don't get old often.
Sık sık yaşlanmazlar.
Was your daughter a publisher? Is your daughter a publisher?
Kızınız yayıncı mı?
Your nephew is a psychiatrist. Your nephew is a psychiatrist.
Yeğeniniz psikiyatristi.
After 4 days, he may not worry. After 4 days, he can worry.
4 gün sonra endişelenebilir.
Can arrest. Can arrest.
Tutuklayabilir.
Can't be organized. Can't be organized.
Örgütlenemez mi?
Your half-brother is a shoemaker. Your half-brother is a shoemaker.
Üvey kardeşin ayakkabıcı.
Was her mother a painter? Is her mother a painter?
Annesi ressam mı?
We accept immediately. We accept immediately.
Hemen kabul ediyoruz.
Noon could not calculate. Noon could not calculate.
Öğlen hesaplayamadı.
I replied 5 months ago. I replied 5 months ago.
5 ay önce cevap verdim.
10 years should not focus. Should be focused on.
Üzerine odaklanılmalıdır.
Is my stepbrother a cop? Is my stepbrother a cop?
Üvey kardeşim polis mi?
Could it be a window cleaner at sunset? Could it be a window cleaner in the day window?
Gün penceresinde pencere temizleyicisi mi olabilir?
They will not be monthly interviewers. They will not be monthly interviewers.
Aylık görüşmeci olmayacaklar.
Her stepdaughter is a golfer. Her stepdaughter is a golfer.
Üvey kızı golfçu.
Neighbor hematologist. Neighbor hematologist.
Komşusu hematolog.
Should the producer never be? Should the producer never be?
Yapımcı asla olmamalı mı?
Shouldn't be a salesperson at dawn. There should be no salesperson at dawn.
Şafakta satış elemanı olmamalıdır.
Can we behave? Can we behave?
Davranabilir miyiz?
He gets better. He gets better.
O iyileşir.
Denies it. Denies it.
İnkar ediyor.
Your wife was a professor. Your wife was a professor.
Eşiniz profesördü.
His brother-in-law was a nutritionist. His brother-in-law was a nutritionist.
Kayınbiraderi beslenme uzmanıydı.
We can be truck drivers at dusk. We can be truck drivers at dusk.
Alacakaranlıkta kamyon şoförü olabiliriz.
Our son was a sociologist. Our son was a sociologist.
Oğlumuz sosyologdu.
You couldn't be a taxi driver 2 weeks ago. You couldn't be a taxi driver 2 weeks ago.
2 hafta önce taksi şoförü olamadınız.
He is the drummer. He is the drummer.
O davulcu.
Would take note. Would not take.
Değil alacaktı.
Will you be a songwriter later? Will you be a songwriter later?
Daha sonra söz yazarı olacak mısın?
Wouldn't he argue every day? Doesn't he argue every day?
Her gün tartışmaz mı?
You can make it 2 seconds ago. You can make it 2 seconds ago.
2 saniye önce başarabilirsin.
It can kill. It can kill.
Öldürebilir.
Would you refuse? Would you refuse?
Reddeder misin?
Don't I guarantee 10 years? Do I not guarantee the year?
Yılı garanti etmiyor muyum?
Weren't they often surgeons? Didn't they often become surgeons?
Sık sık cerrah olmamışlar mı?
Should they host right away? Should they host right away?
Hemen ev sahipliği yapmalılar mı?
His brothers were art directors. The dead was art direction.
Ölüler sanat yönetmenliğiydi.
Shall we open? Shall we open?
Açalım mı?
His half-brother was a reporter. Opponent of his half-brother.
Üvey kardeşi muhalifi.
I will kill. I will kill.
Öldüreceğim.
You usually care. You are usually close.
Sen yakınsın genellikle.
It appears. It appears.
O görünür.
Were your cousins tailors? Cousins tailor?
Kuzenlerin terzisi.
Was produced every day. We are produced every day.
Her gün üretiliyoruz.
I shouldn't change. I have to change.
Değişmeliyim.
They should not be visible at dusk. They should not be visible at dusk.
Alacakaranlıkta görünmemeliler.
We can be agents 4 nights ago. You can have agent 4 evenings ago.
4 akşam önce ajanınız olabilir.
We will live in 5 years. We will live in 5 years.
5 yıl sonra yaşayacağız.
Is my husband a butler? Is my husband a butler?
Kocam uşak mı?
Can never judge. Can never judge.
Asla yargılamayabilir.
Are our grandchildren singers? Are our grandchildren singers?
Torunlarımız şarkıcı mı?
Shouldn't be gardening for 10 years. Shouldn't be gardening for 10 years.
10 yıl bahçıvanlık yapmamalı.
Can't we fly in an hour? Can't we fly in an hour?
1 saat sonra uçamaz mıyız?
Are their grandchildren watchmen? Are their grandchildren watchmen?
Torunları bekçi mi?
Was their grandmother a gardener? Go to their grandmother's gardener?
Büyükanneleri bahçıvan gitmek.
Should it sink? Should it sink?
Batırmalı mı?
Was his half-brother a lobbyist? His half-brother lobbyist cafe?
Üvey kardeşi lobici kafesi.
Couldn't they analyze 3 weeks ago? Can't they get analysis 3 weeks ago?
3 hafta önce analiz alamazlar mı?
Should the producer never be? Should the producer never be?
Yapımcı asla olmamalı mı?
It was not the place. It was not the place.
O yer değildi.
Was she a fortnightly fashion designer? Take away that fortnightly fashion saver?
O 2 haftada bir moda koruyucusu götürmek.
Shouldn't you deny it? Don't you need to deny it?
İnkar etmene gerek yok mu?
We handle. He manages.
İdare ediyor.
You nurse. Joyful.
Sen.
After 2 seconds he wouldn't shout. After 2 seconds he wouldn't shout.
2 saniye sonra bağırmazdı.
Do they need to guess? Need estimations?
Tahmin işlemleri mi gerekiyor?
He should find out after 3 weeks. He should find out after 3 weeks.
3 hafta sonra öğrenmelidir.
I'm worthy. I'm worthy.
Ben yakışırım.
Can you prepare 1 week in advance? Can you prepare for 1 week?
Bir hafta boyunca hazırlayabilir misiniz?
Rarely analyzed. Analyze the details.
Ayrıntıları analiz eder.
My mother was a race car driver. The race was my mom's car.
Yarış annem arabasıydı.
We must always increase. We must always increase.
Her zaman artırmalıyız.
I remove. Sidewalk.
Kaldırım.
I agree. Visit.
Ziyaret.
You were later included. Later included.
Daha sonra dahil edildi.
Did we do woodcutting at noon? Did we do woodcutting at noon?
Öğlen odunculuk yaptık mı?
Was your daughter a founder? Is your daughter the founders?
Kızınız kurucuları mı?
Is our grandfather a nurse? Our grandfather's drawing?
Dedemiz çizimi mi?
Shouldn't we lose right now? Shouldn't we lose now?
Hemen kaybetmemiz gerekmez mi?
He was rarely a lawyer. Mediator attorney.
Arabulucu avukatı.
Rolled over. Rolled over.
Yuvarlandı.
Was he analyzing? Are you analyzing?
Analiz ediyor musunuz?
You're always close. You're always close.
Her zaman yaklaştın.
Was my son a masseuse? Was my son a masseuse?
Oğlum masöz müydü?
Her mother-in-law is a minister. Her mother-in-law is a minister.
Kayınvalidesi bakandır.
Air traffic controller in 2 hours? Air traffic controller in 2 hours?
2 saat sonra hava trafik kontrolörü mü?
We will not prepare. We will not prepare.
Hazırlamayacağız.
He could make daily jewelry. He could make daily jewelry.
Günlük kuyumculuk yapabilirdi.
Rarely use. Rarely use.
Nadiren kullanabilir mi?
Is your mother-in-law a caretaker? Is your mother-in-law a caretaker?
Kayınvalideniz bekçi mi?
They could notice. They could have equipment.
Donanımları var olabilirlerdi.
Is that the bartender? Is that the bartender?
O barmen mi?
Shouldn't it turn? Shouldn't it turn?
Dönmesi gerekmez mi?
You shouldn't enjoy. You shouldn't enjoy.
Zevk almamalısın.
He wouldn't dance. He wouldn't dance.
Dans etmezdi.
They could notice. They could have equipment.
Donanımları var olabilirlerdi.
Noon is not a tradesman. Noon is not a tradesman.
Öğle vakti esnaf değil.
Were we pushing? Do you force?
Zorluyor musun?
Do you dress at dawn? Do you dress at dawn?
Şafakta giyinir misin?
His half-brother was a lifesaver. His half-brother was a lifesaver.
Üvey kardeşi can kurtarandı.
Shall we go to the grocery store at noon? Going to the grocery store at noon?
Öğlen bakkaliyeye gitmek mi?
Never an editor? Never an editor?
Asla editör değil mi?
I may not always look. I can always look.
Her zaman bakabilirim.
Did they become a tailor in 2 seconds before? Have they been tailors for 2 marriages before?
Daha önce 2 evlilik mi terzi oldular?
Stepson pathologist. Stepson pathologist.
Üvey oğlu patolog.
Hadn't he paid? Not published?
Yayınlamamış mı?
Did he promise? Did he promise?
Söz mü verdi?
Descendants were recruiters. Descendants were recruiters.
Torunları işe alım görevlisiydi.
Truck driver after 4 nights? Truck driver after 4 nights?
4 akşam sonra kamyon şoförü mü?
We do not produce. We do not produce.
Biz üretmiyoruz.
Would not close at sunrise. He would have a crisis at sunrise.
Gün doğumunda kriz geçirecekti.
We cannot persuade. We cannot persuade.
İkna edemeyebiliriz.
Should deny it. To deny.
İnkar etmesi.
Do you sign? Are the signs wrong?
İşaretler yanlış mı?
They may not reflect after one evening. They can reflect after an evening.
Bir akşam sonra yansıtabilirler.
Are their spouses minors? Are their spouses minors?
Eşleri madenci mi?
Was not always a pharmacist. Cannot always be done.
Her zaman yapılamaz.
Can be lost in 2 weeks. May lose 2 weeks.
2 haftayı kaybedebilir.
Their children are astronauts. The little ones are astronauts.
Küçükler astronottur.
My children were minors. My children were minors.
Çocuklarım madenciydi.
My nephew was a gardener. My nephew was a gardener.
Yeğenim bahçıvandı.
Your relatives were barbers. Your relatives were barbers.
Akrabalarınız berberdi.
Shouldn't it load? Should it be uploaded?
Yüklemeli mi?
Is her father a blogger? Is her father a blogger?
Babası blogçu mu?
Your children are lawyers. Your children are lawyers.
Çocuklarınız avukat.
Was he jumping 4 days ago? Are they jumping 4 days ago?
4 gün önce zıplıyorlar mı?
After 1 week they should do gymnastics. After 1 week they should do gymnastics.
Bir hafta sonra jimnastik yapmalıdırlar.
Don't I kiss? Don't I kiss?
Öpmez miyim?
Do we need to diversify? Do we need to diversify?
Çeşitlendirmemiz gerekmez mi?
He is the waiter. Or waiter.
Veya garson.
Didn't I remove it? Didn't I remove it?
Çıkarmadım mı?
Wasn't he always a historian? Isn't he always a historian?
Hep tarihçi değil mi?
You've never been an esthetician before. You've never been an esthetician before.
Daha önce estetisyenlik yapmadın.
I've never been a jeweler before. I've never been a jeweler before.
Daha önce kuyumculuk yapamadım.
Noon businessman, right? Isn't the food businessman?
Yemek iş adamı değil mi?
Did it change? Did it change?
Değişti mi?
Was our stepsister a businesswoman? Is our stepsister a business manager?
Üvey kız kardeşimiz iş yöneticisi mi?
Can they coach after 4 nights? Can they coach after 4 nights?
4 gece sonra koçluk yapabilirler mi?
Can't we paint at 2 o'clock at midnight? Are we drawing a picture at 2 a.m.?
Gece yarısı 2'de resim mi çiziyoruz?
Don't you think? Doesn't he think?
Zannetmiyor mu?
I shouldn't draw. I have to draw.
Çizmeliyim.
My brothers are illusionists. My vein is an illusionist.
Damarım illüzyonist.
It would be connected in 2 weeks. It would be connected in 2 weeks.
2 haftada bağlanacaktı.
Should be appreciated every year. should be appreciated every year.
Her yıl takdir edilmelidir.
Should not go now, must go now.
Hemen gitmeli.
Was it vineyards? Does it bind?
Bağlar mı?
Were his grandchildren agents? Grandson run agencies?
Torun ajansları yürütmek.
We did not create. We did not create.
Yaratmadık.
I can be a housewife. I can be a housewife.
Ev hanımı olabilirim.
He is a hydrologist. He is a hydrologist.
O hidrolog.
Can't you swim every week? Can't you face it every week?
Her hafta yüzleşemez misin?
Is her daughter a cop? Is she a cop?
Kız polis mi?
I can't exercise. I can't exercise.
Egzersiz yapamam.
Then I must be a psychologist. Then I must be a psychologist.
O zaman psikolog olmalıyım.
Couldn't apply next year. Couldn't apply next year.
Gelecek yıl başvuramadı.
Can you produce? Can it produce wrong?
Yanlış üretebilir mi?
His wife is a detective. His wife is a detective.
Eşi dedektiftir.
Are our brothers golfers? Are our brothers golfers?
Kardeşlerimiz golfçü mü?
He must be a frequent pilot. He must be a frequent pilot.
Sık sık pilotluk yapmalıdır.
We must sign. Our people.
Bizimkiler.
Should it come monthly? Should it come monthly?
Ayda gelmeli mi?
Can you evaluate every day? Can you evaluate every day?
Her gün değerlendirebilir mi?
Was my mother-in-law a blacksmith? My mother-in-law blacksmith circular?
Kayınvalidem demirci genelgesi.
Can't affect. Can't affect.
Etkileyemez mi?
Was our spouse an ambassador? Our spouse is an ambassador?
Eşimiz büyükelçi.
Was our grandmother a tailor? Our grandmother is a tailor?
Annemiz terzi.
Didn't you set a monthly limit? Not experiencing monthly restrictions?
Aylık kısıtlamaları yaşamadınız mı?
Were you invisible in the twilight? Are you hidden in the twilight?
Alacakaranlıkta gizlin mi?
His grandchildren were fashion designers. Descendants were fashion keepers.
Torunları moda koruyucusuydu.
Were we pushing? Do you force?
Zorluyor musun?
Was her sister a midwife? Sister midwife keyboard?
Ablası ebe klavyesi.
Do I usually finish? Do I usually finish?
Genellikle bitiririm.